This section of video is dedicated to Earl Herbert Swanson, 1927 to 1975. Earl Swanson came to Idaho in 1957 to direct the Idaho State College Museum, which is now the Idaho Museum of Natural History in Pocatello. By 1958, Swanson, along with others, had located and cataloged 650 archaeological sites in the state of Idaho, thus putting Idaho on the archaeology map of the world. One of these sites is Box Canyon in the southwestern Lemhi Range. In this cave we have pictographs made by prehistoric hunters. The distinctive three-legged figures show that hunters passed this way in pre-Columbian times. Through Dr. Swanson's work, it was determined that man had been in this area for over 10,000 years. These horncarl fossil tracings that we're looking at, however, show that living things have been here much longer. For these shells are of Mississippian Paleozoic age, and that makes them 350 million years old. Swanson helped get the Idaho State Antiquities Act passed in 1963, thus preserving sites such as we are visiting today. These caves that we're visiting, in this instance the Jacknife Cave, is more correctly called a solution cavity, which is caused by the weathering in the porous limestone rock. Jacknife Cave was excavated by archaeologists in the late 1930s, and it was written up by Dr. Swanson in 1971. Pictographs are the main feature that we see here in the Jacknife Cave, symbolizing perhaps that big game could be taken in a forested area. This was a subsistence culture that lived by hunting. And while these pictographs might be 600 to 1,000 years old, the archaeologists would have been interested in excavating the fire pits where the true longevity of habitation could be determined. Earl Swanson developed an archaeological survey system that would be applicable to the entire state of Idaho, and he established archaeological publications in conjunction with the museum at Pocatello. The pictographs are done with a paint, red ochre, For much of the information on Earl Swanson, we can thank B. Robert Butler, himself a pioneer in Idaho archaeology. Our survey of Idaho archaeological sites continues on the flank of the Ramshorn, Lost River Range in the Big Lost River Valley. We see some muleys into our site. Bob Carr from Archaeology, Idaho has a book out on the area, and he has some interesting things to say about big springs. Although less than scientific, he talks about the eerie sounds emanating from this area. Can you hear that spooky noise coming out from the earth? Ooh. These Indian hunters have magnificent rock panel cliffs on which to do their artwork. The pictographs are along this whole length of cliff in the canyon wall. Now I'd interpret that as one frightful pose. With a nearby source of big game, as we saw, and water here, Big Springs must have been a reasonably comfortable spot for these hunter-gatherers that occupied this area thousands of years ago. Plus, it was tucked away, thus being hidden from any predatory types of enemies. That must have been a game animal of sorts. We'll do a little climbing up here to get to a very interesting type pictograph. Okay, now look here at this panel. My interpretation of these pictographs is one of tongue-in-cheek humor. That is one obese person there, as you see. Now, it would have taken a very lithe, nimble Indian brave to have climbed up there just to paint that. It's pretty vertical where we are right now. The humor is there's no way old Mr. Grovant or Fat Belly could have climbed up that high to paint that thing. To be straightforward with you, I have no training at all in archaeology, but I do know what I like, having had the opportunity to observe the work of pioneers Heinrich Schliemann and Dr. Arthur Evans in Greece at the Acropolis and Knossos in Crete. So having said that, I'm going to now express my total confusion here. It was my understanding that most Indian art took on a curvilinear form, or curves, and in fact rectilinears were somewhat foreign, so I am baffled by this kind of pictograph. Which shows a rectangular straight type arrangement. Well, maybe that's a 1,000-year-old battleship with anti-aircraft gun, or a 1,000-year-old electronic circuitry, or a 1,000-year-old General Land Office survey of the valley. The really big human figures, however, were devoted to that of the chief or the medicine man who conducted the hunt. Big Springs. Earl Swanson died at age 47 of diabetes. His legacy are the many articles on archaeology, including this book published posthumously. Despite his premature passing, we commemorate Earl Swanson Jr. as the father of archaeology in the state of Idaho. From the Natural Bridge near Beaverland Pass, Lost Rivers Country, Idaho, this is Rick Bogger.